Stop what you're doing for a moment because the next few minutes could genuinely change how you think about your health for the rest of this year. This isn't hype or drama, it's something far more practical and, honestly, far more overlooked. What you're about to hear is based on decades of research. Yet most people over 50 have never had a doctor sit them down and explain it clearly. Not because the information doesn't exist, but because it doesn't come packaged as a prescription. I'm Dr. William Lee, a vascular biologist and cancer researcher, and for over 25 years, I've focused on one question: what actually helps the body prevent cancer at the cellular level? And what I've discovered, supported by a major 2022 study from Harvard's T.H. Chan School of Public Health that tracked more than 116,000 adults over 28 years, is striking. A specific set of daily habits can reduce overall cancer risk by up to 61% in adults over 50. 61%. That's not from medication, not from treatment after diagnosis, but from lifestyle choices. Today, I'm going to walk you through the five most powerful of these habits, starting with the simplest and building toward the most transformative. So by the end, you'll know exactly what to begin doing as soon as tomorrow morning. And there's something important you should know before we go further. Number one on this list is something nearly 90% of people over 60 are doing incorrectly, and correcting it alone could cut your cancer risk almost in half. So don't skip ahead. The order matters because each habit strengthens the next. Before we dive in, I want to ask you something directly. Take a moment to comment your age below and answer this honestly. Has a doctor ever had a real conversation with you about preventing cancer, not just detecting it? I read every comment, and your responses genuinely shape what I cover next. Now, let's begin with number five. Number five is something so simple that most people dismiss it entirely, and that dismissal could be costing far more than they realize. We're talking about cold water hydration, specifically drinking 16 to 20 ounces of filtered water first thing in the morning, before coffee, before breakfast, before even checking your phone. It may sound basic, but the biology behind it is anything but. As we age, particularly after 55, something called interoceptive thirst sensitivity begins to decline. In simpler terms, your brain becomes less accurate at telling you when you're actually thirsty. A 2019 study from the University of Barcelona found that adults over 60 often operate at 8 to 12% below optimal hydration at the cellular level without feeling thirsty at all. And that matters more than most people think, especially when it comes to cancer risk. Your lymphatic system, which functions like the body's internal waste removal network, depends heavily on proper hydration. It helps clear out damaged cells, toxins, and fragments of DNA that, if left unchecked, can contribute to cancer development. When you're dehydrated, the system slows down, waste builds up, inflammation increases, and chronic low level inflammation is now recognized as a major factor in the early stages of cancer, such as colorectal, bladder, and kidney cancer. The Harvard Nurses Health Study revealed that women who drank more than 5 glasses of water daily had a 45% lower risk of colon cancer compared to those who drank two or fewer. That's a significant difference for something that requires no cost or special access. Hydration also plays a role in supporting autophagy, the process your cells use to clean and repair themselves. You can think of autophagy as an internal quality control system, identifying and breaking down damaged components before they can cause harm. After age 65, this process becomes about 30% less efficient, but proper hydration has been shown to help restore some of that lost function. The way to apply this is straightforward. Keep a glass of water about 20 ounces next to your bed. As soon as you wake up, drink it completely before doing anything else. If you prefer, you can add a bit of fresh lemon, which contains compounds like D-limonene that have additional anti-tumor properties. To amplify the benefits even further, combine your morning hydration with about 10 minutes of light movement, even if it's just walking around your home. Movement helps stimulate lymphatic flow, enhancing the body's ability to clear out cellular waste. Research from the Karolinska Institute in Sweden suggests this combination can improve the cleansing effect by up to 40%. This is the foundation: simple, accessible, and powerful. But what you add on top of it, starting with your first meal of the day, can take things even further. Let's move to number four. Number four focuses on something that has been part of human diets for thousands of years, especially in regions known for long life and low disease rates, yet it was largely overlooked by modern Western medicine for decades. Today, that's changing fast. We're talking about fermented foods, natural options like plain yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, and miso. What was once considered traditional or even optional is now backed by over 1,200 peer reviewed studies examining its role in cancer prevention. One of the most important came out in 2021 from Stanford University's School of Medicine, published in the journal Cell. In this study, adults who followed a diet rich in both fiber and fermented foods experienced a significant increase in gut microbiome diversity, along with a measurable reduction in 19 different inflammatory proteins, several of which are directly linked to cancer progression. This is especially important for people over 50 because as we age, the integrity of the gut lining begins to weaken. After around age 60, something called intestinal permeability increases, meaning the gut becomes more porous, a condition often referred to as leaky gut. This allows harmful bacterial toxins known as lipopolysaccharides to enter the bloodstream, triggering widespread inflammation. And that kind of inflammation doesn't just stay in one place, it circulates through the body, creating an environment where precancerous cells are more likely to grow and develop. I've seen this firsthand in patients. One example is Margaret, a 7-year old from Asheville, North Carolina. She came in with persistent fatigue, elevated inflammatory markers, and a strong family history of colorectal cancer. On paper, her diet looked healthy, but it lacked one key element: fermented foods. We introduced just 2 servings a day, kefir in the morning, and a small portion of sauerkraut with lunch. Within 90 days, her C reactive protein levels, which measure inflammation, dropped by 38%. Even her gastroenterologist was surprised by the change. Margaret told me it was the first time in years she felt like herself again. What's happening here at a biological level is equally important. Fermented foods support the production of short chain fatty acids in the gut, especially one called butyrate. This compound plays a direct role in regulating the health of colon cells. In fact, butyrate has been shown to signal damaged or precancerous cells to undergo apoptosis, which is essentially a controlled form of cell death that prevents them from becoming harmful. Think of it as a quiet but effective internal safeguard. To apply this in your daily routine, aim for 1 to 2 servings of naturally fermented foods each day. It's important to choose options that are not pasteurized because heat kills the beneficial bacteria you need. Always check for labels that say live and active cultures. To make this even more effective, pair these foods with prebiotic rich ingredients like garlic, leeks, or slightly underripe bananas. Prebiotics act as fuel for the beneficial bacteria, helping them grow and function more efficiently. This combination can significantly strengthen the overall effect on your gut and immune system. Now, moving on to number three. This is where things start to become even more impactful. And it's something most people have heard about, but rarely use in a way that truly activates its full benefits. We're talking about walking, but not just casual walking. This is what researchers now describe as metabolic walking, and the difference between the two is more important than it might seem. Regular strolling is helpful, but metabolic walking is designed to actively change how your body processes energy in a way that directly affects cancer risk. To understand why, you need to look at how cells produce energy. Your body primarily relies on two systems: glucose and oxygen. Cancer cells, due to a metabolic pattern first identified by biochemist Otto Warburg in 1931, depend heavily on glucose and are less efficient at using oxygen. This creates an opportunity when you engage in sustained, moderate intensity physical activity enough to raise your heart rate to about 55 to 70% of its maximum. You begin to shift your internal environment. First, your body starts using up circulating glucose, which limits the fuel available to cancer cells. At the same time, increased blood flow delivers more oxygen to your tissues, creating conditions that are less favorable for cancer cell survival. A large meta analysis conducted in 2020 by the American Cancer Society, involving data from 1.4 million adults, found that regular moderate physical activity was linked to a 42% reduction in colon cancer risk, a 38% reduction in breast cancer risk, and a 27% reduction in lung cancer risk, even among non smokers. These are significant outcomes from an activity that doesn't require equipment, medication, or cost. For individuals over 65, there's another layer to consider. The efficiency and number of mitochondria, the energy producing structures inside your cells, decline by as much as 35% with age. This decline is closely associated with both aging and increased cancer risk. Metabolic walking has been shown to stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis, which means your body begins producing new, healthier mitochondria. It's essentially like upgrading the energy systems inside your cells. To do this effectively, aim for 30 to 45 minutes of continuous walking at a pace where you can still talk, but not comfortably sing. This should be done at least 5 days a week and ideally in the morning before your first full meal, since exercising in a fasted state can further enhance glucose utilization. I remember working with Robert, a 72-year-old retired teacher from Portland, Oregon, who came to me after a cancer scare involving a precancerous polyp. He wasn't active at all at the time. We started a simple routine: 35 minutes of walking every morning, 5 days a week, combined with some dietary adjustments. 2 years later, during his follow up colonoscopy, there were no new issues. His inflammatory markers had improved significantly, and his doctor described his progress as exceptional. Robert told me that walking had become his form of daily medicine. And from a scientific perspective, that's not far from the truth. To strengthen this habit further, combine your walk with a hydration routine from earlier, and if possible, do it in natural morning light. Sunlight helps regulate your circadian rhythm, which plays a key role in immune function and the body's ability to detect and manage abnormal cells. Together, these habits create a stronger foundation than either would on its own. Now we move into the final two habits, and this is where the science becomes especially powerful because these next steps don't just support your body, they actively influence how your genes behave in relation to cancer risk. Number two centers around a specific group of compounds found in a category of vegetables you've likely heard about many times before, but probably never understood at this level. We're talking about sulforaphane, a naturally occurring compound found in cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cabbage, and most concentrated of all, broccoli sprouts. What makes sulforaphane so important, particularly after the age of 50, is how it interacts with your genetic defense systems. In 2018, researchers at Johns Hopkins University, who have led much of the foundational work on this compound, published findings showing that sulforaphane activates a critical pathway in the body known as NRF2. You can think of NRF2 as a master switch that controls your body's internal defense system. When it's activated, it turns on more than 200 protective genes, genes responsible for detoxification, antioxidant production, and most importantly, repairing damaged DNA before it has a chance to turn into cancer. And here's where aging becomes a serious factor. Between the ages of 50 and 70, NRF2 activity naturally declines by around 40%. That means your body's ability to defend and repair itself is gradually weakening, often without any obvious signs. Sulforaphane helps restore that activity, essentially reactivating a system that would otherwise continue to slow down. The research supporting this is strong. A study from the University of Illinois found that people who regularly consume sulforaphane-rich foods had a 52% lower risk of bladder cancer, a 41% reduction in prostate cancer cases, and noticeable improvements in markers associated with breast and lung cancer. But one of the most important findings came from the Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center, where researchers discovered that sulforaphane can target cancer stem cells. These are the cells responsible for starting and restarting tumor growth, even after treatments like chemotherapy. If typical cancer cells are like soldiers, cancer stem cells are the command center. Eliminate the soldiers, and a disease may shrink temporarily. But if the command center remains, the problem can return. Sulforaphane goes after that deeper layer. However, there's a detail that many people miss, and it significantly affects how effective these vegetables actually are. Sulforaphane doesn't exist in its active form inside the vegetable. It's created through a chemical reaction that happens when the vegetable is chopped or chewed, activating an enzyme called myrosinase. The problem is that cooking at high temperatures above about 140 degrees Fahrenheit destroys this enzyme. So if you're eating fully cooked broccoli without preparation, you're getting far less of the benefit than you might expect. The optimal method is simple but specific. Chop or lightly crush your broccoli or sprouts and let them sit for about 40 minutes before cooking. This gives the reaction time to occur and form sulforaphane. After that, lightly steam the vegetables for no more than 3 to 4 minutes. Broccoli sprouts don't require cooking at all and are actually up to 50 times more concentrated in sulforaphane than mature broccoli. A practical daily goal would be about half a cup of raw broccoli sprouts or 1 full cup of properly prepared broccoli. To increase effectiveness even further, you can pair these vegetables with a small amount of raw mustard seed powder or raw radish. Both contain active myrosinase, which can restore the enzyme activity lost during cooking. Research from the Institute of Food Research in Norwich shows that this combination can increase sulforaphane absorption by up to 4 times. This is a clear example of how small adjustments in preparation can make a significant difference in outcome. That brings us to number one, and this is where everything connects. This is not just another habit, it's the foundation that determines how well all the others work. Number one is sleep, but more specifically, the quality and structure of your sleep. Researchers now refer to this as oncological sleep architecture, meaning the specific patterns of sleep that activate your body's most powerful internal defenses against cancer. The impact of this is far greater than most people realize. During deep sleep stages, particularly stages 3 and 4, your brain activates a system known as the glymphatic system. This system, first described by researchers at the University of Rochester in 2013, acts as a cleaning network for the brain and nervous system. It uses cerebrospinal fluid to remove waste products, damaged proteins, and other toxins that accumulate throughout the day. You can think of it as a nightly reset process that only works when the body is fully at rest, but the connection to cancer goes beyond the brain. During these same deep sleep phases, your body produces its highest levels of melatonin. While commonly known as a sleep hormone, melatonin also functions as one of the most powerful natural antioxidants in the body. A comprehensive review published in the journal Cancer Research in 2021 found that melatonin plays a direct role in inhibiting tumor growth by blocking angiogenesis, the process through which tumors create new blood vessels to sustain themselves. Without access to these blood vessels, cancer cells struggle to grow. Melatonin also strengthens the activity of natural killer cells, which are a key part of your immune system, responsible for identifying and destroying abnormal or cancerous cells before they develop further. However, as we age, melatonin production drops significantly by as much as 70% between the ages of 40 and 70. By the time many people reach their mid 60s, nighttime melatonin levels are only a fraction of what they once were. This means one of your body's most important protective systems is operating at reduced capacity, often without you realizing it. The consequences of disrupted sleep are serious. In fact, a 2019 report from the International Agency for Research on Cancer classified long term night shift work, which interferes with normal sleep patterns, as a probable human carcinogen. That places it in the same category as certain industrial chemicals, highlighting just how important sleep is in relation to cancer risk. I worked with a patient named Eleanor, a 1 year old retired nurse from Scottsdale, Arizona, who had been sleeping only 5 to 6 hours a night and waking frequently. Her lab results showed significantly reduced natural killer cell activity. We focused on improving her sleep structure using a consistent routine, a fixed bedtime of 10 p.m., a completely dark room, a cooler temperature set around 67 degrees Fahrenheit, avoiding screens for at least 90 minutes before bed, and adding a small amount of tart cherry juice in the evening to support natural melatonin production. Within 6 weeks, her sleep improved to an average of 7.5 hours per night. At her 3 month follow up, her natural killer cell activity had increased by 47%. Her medical team was genuinely surprised by the change. She described it as the best sleep she had experienced in decades. The evidence is clear: sleep is not just rest, it is an active biological process that directly influences your body's ability to prevent disease. So, how do you make this work for yourself? The steps for optimizing sleep are simple in concept, though they require consistency. Set a fixed bedtime and wake up time. Even on weekends, your circadian rhythm doesn't take days off. Make your room completely dark because even small amounts of light suppress melatonin production. Keep the temperature between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit and avoid eating within 3 hours of sleep so your body can focus on repair and detoxification rather than digestion. To maximize the effect, combine this optimized sleep routine with morning sunlight exposure from your metabolic walk. Early light strengthens your circadian rhythm and directly increases melatonin output in the evening, creating a powerful synergy that helps your body fight cancer on multiple fronts. Every habit I've shared today, from morning hydration and fermented foods to metabolic walking, sulforaphane-rich vegetables, and restorative sleep, may seem simple, even mundane, but the science supporting each one is compelling. These aren't expensive or exotic protocols. They are the conditions your body was designed for, and each day gives you a fresh opportunity to implement them. When layered together, these five habits create a system where your body can repair itself, reduce inflammation, detoxify, and maintain cellular health, effectively lowering cancer risk by more than half in some studies for adults over 50. You don't need medication, surgery, or complicated regimens, just consistent daily actions. It doesn't matter if you're 55 or 85, whether you've had a cancer scare or never thought about prevention. Your body retains an incredible ability to heal, defend, and regenerate. When you provide the right conditions, this is about maintaining independence, quality of life, and the ability to be present for the people you care about. 30 minutes of walking, a glass of water, and a structured bedtime are small investments with potentially enormous returns for your health. Don't let anyone convince you it's too late. The research says otherwise, and so does my experience. If you found value in this video, subscribe and share it with someone you care about. Every week, we dive deep into the science of aging well, and your support helps make this content possible. I also want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments which of these five habits you're starting first and share the biggest challenges you face with sleep. Your engagement shapes the next topics we cover, and I read every single comment personally. Finally, all studies and references mentioned throughout this video are linked in the description below. I encourage you to read them, bring them to your doctor, and ask questions your appointments might not have time for. Knowledge is power, and the more informed you are, the more control you have over your own health. Remember, prevention doesn't have an age limit. You have the tools to make meaningful changes starting today. Every morning is a new opportunity to protect your cells, your body, and your life. Start with these five habits, layer them consistently, and you'll create a foundation for health that not only supports longevity, but also empowers you to live fully, vibrantly, and independently for years to come.